if we have a look at this map, we will see that Beit-Hanoun is this area over here. Beit-Hanoun is the closest area to Israel and the closest area to Erez, the Erez checkpoint. This is the crossing between Gaza to Israel. Israel again destroyed it back in 2023, and they declared that they were over with the destruction of Beit-Hanoun, only for Beit-Hanoun to come up time after time and prove that it's an area that is still resisting. Israel is still, landing heavy blows against the genocide forces. And if you want some of the, there are a lot of destruction images, but these are just some of them here. If you have a basic Google search, you will see what Beit-Hanoun looks like. It's completely destroyed. So what happened exactly in Beit-Hanoun today, and what was the terrible phone call that Benjamin Netanyahu got after he went to the United States? Again, a huge ambush inside of Beit-Hanoun with 6 people killed. 6 IDF terror forces killed in Beit-Hanoun with over 13 wounded, as confirmed by Israel. This wasn't the only operation. There was another very serious security incident in Khan Yunis today, with Israel applying censorship on the news. This was supposed to be censored, but Israel could no longer censor it because there were already reports circulating on Telegram in uncensored channels in Israel. The families of these people already knew. So from an Israeli perspective, they just had to go ahead and confirm what has been stated in those reports and try and minimize as much as possible. Who was killed? Well, the people who were killed were from a brigade called Netzach Yehuda, which is part of the Kfir division, or just smaller than a division. That's made out of primarily squatters from the West Bank, so religious Zionists, basically. This division, Netzach Yehuda, or the Eternity of Judea, was supposed to only be involving the Orthodox who want to join the army. It was supposed to be a religious type of brigade in the Israeli army. However, with time, it started to attract more of the religious Zionists, so the establishment, of course, of the West Bank, the people who follow Bezalel Smotrich and Itamar Ben-Gvir, and now those very few who do join from the Orthodox community, and they are very, very few. They are joining a brigade called the Hashmonaim brigade that is not very active in combat inside of Gaza. Who is controlling Beit-Hanoun from the Palestinian resistance? The Palestinian resistance is still has many leaders, and they still carry out very strong operations. It's led the brigade of Beit-Hanoun from Al-Qassam brigades, because this was an operation by Al-Qassam brigades. He's called Abu Hamza Fayyad. Abu Hamza Fayyad, or Hussein Fayyad, he was announced dead by Israel back in several months back, only for him to appear later on and for everyone to see him. And he said that, no, I wasn't killed and I'm still here, still alive. And he was seen during the ceasefire going out and, checking everything inside of the Beit-Hanoun. And he had a video of him recorded. That's him walking normally. And that's during the ceasefire, by the way, because there was clearly an agreement that Israel doesn't target. Hamas forced a condition that Israel doesn't target anyone from the Palestinian resistance. He was roaming around freely. There were reports that he was seen during the genocide as well, walking over the ground between the people, checking on the population and checking on the Palestinian resistance fighters too. Fayyad is a man who is a very strong believer I mean, his characteristics. He has a very strong faith, this man, and he made several statements previously in relation to like the resistance, the situation of the resistance, and what they're at. And he famously was quoted saying once that, they tell us, oh, look, Egypt is not with you, or Saudi Arabia is not with you, or Jordan is not with you, as in, the authorities or countries backing them. And he always used to say, when God is with you, you don't need anyone else. And it only matters if God is with you to be victorious. And if he wants you to be victorious, you can only be one, and you will be victorious. So that's the mentality that's running the Palestinian resistance. And again, the armed wing of Hamas now is led by a man called Izz al-Din al-Haddad, who is one of the brigade leaders, but there are now reports that he's controlling the armed wing, and he's leading the most intense consecutive blows against Israel. In the past 2 months, we have seen numbers of attacks coming from the Palestinian resistance against Israel that are considered to be high security or very tense, very sensitive security incidents, as confirmed by Israel. And then Israel would, of course, impose a censorship on them, so they wouldn't allow them to be made public. Only afterwards they will kind of confirm it. With relation to these attacks, they increased in such a heavy way that it wasn't seen before. So clearly, from a Palestinian resistance perspective, the more time went by, the more they grew stronger. And Israel is confirming that now. Israel is saying that now we have 40,000 Palestinian resistance fighters inside of the Gaza Strip. And the fact that Israel is even confirming these things shows you how much of an embarrassment it is to Israel. In the meantime, the spokesperson of Al-Qassam Brigades, he had a statement today, and he said that this very complex attack in Beit-Hanoun is a strike against the silly, stupid Israeli army and one of its most brutal or genocidal brigades inside of the Gaza Strip. Of course, I told you it's made out of the religious Zionists, the Kfir Brigade and the Kfir Division, and the Netzach Yehuda Brigade. This, by the way, was a brigade that Biden sanctioned at one point. When there were talks about sanctioning certain elements within the IDF, but it was later removed. And Abu Ubaidah said that the most stupid move that can come from Benjamin Netanyahu is to keep his forces inside of the Gaza Strip. If Benjamin Netanyahu wants to make such a decision, that they will be getting much, much more serious blows and strikes from the Palestinian resistance. So we're understanding that there's an escalation of attacks at the same time that Benjamin Netanyahu is visiting the United States. As a matter of fact, Benjamin Netanyahu, he came up with a statement, or one of his statements when he was in the United States, saying that there was a tragedy in Gaza and we lost 5 of our brave soldiers. Very sad, very upset to get this report. There wasn't a lot of sympathy shown from the people surrounding him. Clearly, the talks were about just hurry up and let's get this process over and done with. But from the Palestinian perspective, it's proving how much the moves of the Palestinian resistance are pushing towards the ceasefire. All of the talk about like eliminating the resistance, or the resistance not being capable, clearly have no basis whatsoever, especially after these fierce attacks coming from the Palestinian resistance. This shows that any deal that we're talking about here and that might be declared in a few days' time that the Americans are applying pressure for or to obtain is clearly going to be a deal that's going to keep Hamas in Gaza because there is no alternative. Israel failed to impose an alternative. The people who operate with Israel, the armed militias tied with ISIS who operate with Israel, are very weak and incapable in relation to the Palestinian resistance. They have no presence apart from alongside Israel, so it's not like they even can provide an alternative. Any other armed groups inside of Gaza are hand in hand with the authorities of Gaza and with the Palestinian resistance too. And that means that Netanyahu even gave up the day after. So how many concessions do we have now? There's no more talk about ending the war. There's no more talk about who rules Gaza the day after. There's only talks about one certain location that Israel is saying now that it doesn't want to withdraw from. Netanyahu is not talking about eliminating Hamas, and even the talks about disarming Gaza or making Gaza doesn't pose a threat again, expelling some of the resistance leaders to outside of the Gaza Strip. All of these things are no longer on the table. And that's why Benjamin Netanyahu today in one of his statements, he said that the less we talk, the better it is. And the more we talk, we can cause more problems. And from his perspective, the problems would be problems from back home with an immediate threat to a coalition, although there have been reports that the people who are threatening to resign from the Israeli government already were fine with the concept of, that Benjamin Netanyahu might sell them. He will sell them the idea that, Hamas surrendered. They're no longer going to pose a threat, and we're going to get to a deal, and we're going to bring back all of the prisoners of war. So these are the developments. So far, only one thing remaining, but based on the concessions that we had before, that one limit of Benjamin Netanyahu, or one red line now that, because the red line always changes to him. It went from ending the war to now just removing the genocide terror forces from the Murag axis. That can also be eliminated too, but he is in the United States. He is speaking with Donald Trump. He had 2 meetings with him. The Americans are saying they're applying pressure, and pressure will be intense tonight too. Trump is saying that we're exclusively going to be talking about Gaza because clearly Trump does want to end it as well. And there could be expected statements coming from the United States at any given point. So the next few days will be vital to monitor every single word that's coming out and understand if there would be or a deal, or if there wouldn't be a deal, and of course, if it is declared, what it actually includes. In the meantime, and that's the other thing that I wanted to talk to you about, there were more videos published by Ansarullah of them taking over the Magic Seas. Ansarullah published this video today. Let's have a look and we will talk about all of the details. So that was the video that came from Yemen today about them taking down this ship in the Red Sea. What are the messages coming from Ansarullah, and how is that going to affect any potential prospect of anyone supporting Israel economically, so long as there is a genocide? Well, number one, the intensity of the attacks of Yemen inside of the Red Sea hasn't decreased whatsoever. They are still imposing an embargo and punishing everyone who goes against this embargo. Why? Because they would be breaching this embargo and trying to support a genocidal entity and its economy in conducting a genocide and killing innocent civilians in Gaza. It's very simple. It doesn't require a lot of interpretation. But the other very important thing is the ease at which Ansarullah can conduct this operation without any response coming from anyone who is allied with Israel. The United States primarily, and the United Kingdom, aka the Genocide Coalition. Why? Because they already reached a deal with Yemen. They're no longer having any sort of attacks against Yemen in support of Israel. The Genocide Coalition was formed to support Israel, and they were conducting all of these attacks using, of course, their taxpayers' money to support Israel and lift all of this pressure and this economic pressure from Israel. But now the Israelis are left alone. And if they're left alone, they don't have the capacity to protect any sort of ship trying to conduct or breach this embargo being imposed by Ansarullah. This is a very, very serious message, especially the ease at which the Yemenis can conduct these operations, and they're recording them and they're deciding to take the ship down too. And that is a very, very strong message, by the way, to anyone who is even thinking about, going and supporting Israel from the Red Sea. It isn't going to happen. So the Yemeni actions are continuing. This is coming one day after they launched 11 attacks against Israel with hypersonic ballistic missiles and drones on multiple parts. The day before, when they targeted the Ben Gurion airport simultaneously with Netanyahu's departure to Washington, and they didn't do that for the first time. Again, proving the position of Yemen of total support up until the genocide ends and the siege is lifted off the Gaza Strip. And we are expected to even see more unless there is an outright declaration. And the important bit about this is the fact that their attacks are completely coordinated, by the way, with the Palestinian resistance. So even if they, for example, took some prisoners and there's a deal, they would ask for the approval of the Palestinian resistance to release any of them, with their, of course, lines of communication with the Palestinians. So their attacks are still there up until there is a declaration to end the genocide and lift the siege of the Gaza Strip.